So how to love yourself and to build a relationship. How would you first of all describe love? Can you imagine the amount of times this word has been said, the myriad of context that has been spoken, the feelings that this word has evoked, the sacrifice to be made in its name, and the declarations of vows and the wars that have been fought over this one word, love. And I just want, oops. Okay, just go back.
Zach, you might have to do it. It might be easier.
Okay. So, and vows, and the concept of the recipient and the receiver. So take a moment to contemplate how you describe love, if you had to in your own words. When was the last time you said it? How and why did you say it? How did it make you and the recipient feel? And would you say it again? And then take a moment to think, when was the last time you was told that you was loved? What was that context? How did it make you feel? Did you believe them? Did you welcome their love? Did you feel worthy of their love? And you might ask, why so many questions? But does it make you uncomfortable talking about love? Is there a specific instance where love is acceptable and another where you feel pain receiving and giving? As an example, you love your family and you have that free flow love of your family, if you think of your mother, of your children, but perhaps you may feel unworthy of a love of a partner, and that may be to do with a wound or past. Next slide, please. How do you perceive yourself? Now, these are all interconnected, so bear with me. If I asked you to describe yourself, how would you do so? If I asked you to go beyond the physical markers of the exterior and ask what you see and think of yourself, what would you say? And does this answer come easily to you? So now take a moment to contemplate how you perceive yourself and notice not only what is coming up, and please allow it to become coming up unfiltered and without judgment, but also whether you attach emotion to these perceptions and characteristics of self, and whether you deem it to be positive or negative. Now, the reason I talk about this is because very rarely do we contemplate how we may see ourselves, or at least how we see ourselves as an avatar. If this world was a game, a level of a game, and you control the character which is used throughout this level, how would you design your character? How would you feed your character? How would you empower your character to overcome and complete the challenges ahead? Or would you? Because it's entirely up to you how you play the level. The game is entirely up to you. But what if you had the perception to become aware that you are not your thoughts and emotions, that you are the co-creator? Next slide, please.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
So we come into the internal monologue, which is the other key component of what I would like to piece together here. What was the last thought that you had about yourself? Now, obviously, they may become so thick and fast around the day, so assumed and habitual as the process that maybe you don't remember. Was it a nice, pleasant, affirming, positive thought? Or perhaps it wasn't. Either way, it's not actually that important. We accept on a daily basis the brain and the subconscious processes innumerable thoughts and emotions and stores them. And that vast library, or perhaps labyrinth, shapes in part self. So let's run through some examples of that. Perhaps as a child, you was told that you were stupid, bad, or that it wasn't for you or allowed. And as an adult, it's plausible that this thought that you may have in various contexts derived from earlier childhood conditioning. So, for example, as a child, if you was told that you were stupid or bad, perhaps current thoughts of, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, why do I even try, I'm not supposed to be doing this anyway, may be a manifestation of that. But equally, praise and encouragement could manifest as, I can do this, I nearly did it, wow, that was close, I'll try this differently and see how that goes. And have you ever noticed how a child falls off a bike and gets right back on? Next slide, please. So the children of love, this may seem as abstract, but bear with me in this one. If I asked you to imagine an individual who lived life from the heart center, from love, instead of their head and logic, what would that person look like? How do you feel towards that person? Could you take them seriously? Do you admire them? Would it be a life that you wanted to live? Now, when you do that, how many of you thought of the hippie movement? Incidentally, it did occur when Jupiter first swung into Aquarius, and then when Jupiter moved into Capricorn, that movement actually got stamped out. But it was the movement of love. And that movement, how does that make you feel? Because if I told you now that we are now moving into an area where Saturn and Jupiter is now in conjunction in Aquarius, and it will be for the next 250 years, how does that make you feel? Why are you here reading this text? What called you to this particular place? And of course, what does it mean to be able to receive and give love and let love be you? So what you read next may actually help in that context. Zach, thanks.
We've gone too far.
Yeah. So the title slides are, yeah, this is great. A man named Albert. So you may think, what's this got to do with self-love? I'll tell you why. And this blew my mind. You may have come across as Albert Einstein from his work on the theory of relativity. And you may associate him in your own minds as an individual who made great strides in physics. A great mind of our time, I think it's universally accepted. Yet how many of you come across Albert's theories of energies, and more specifically, the energy of love? Do we see science, philosophy, and spirituality as separate spheres of influences, or can they cross over? Have you ever wondered how many of the spiritual masters are also master mathematicians, astrologers, or philosophers? And I'd like to share this letter that Albert Einstein wrote to his daughter. And I'm going to read it because it's really powerful. When I was typing it out to share, it made me quite emotional. He writes, when I proposed the theory of relativity, very few understood me. And what I will reveal now to transmit to mankind will also collide with the misunderstanding prejudice in the world. I ask you to guard the letters as long as necessary, years, decades, until society is advanced enough to accept what I would explain below. This is an extremely powerful force that so far science has not found a formal explanation to. It is a force that includes and governs all others, and is even behind any phenomenon operating in the universe and has not been identified by us. This universal force is love. When scientists looked for the unified theory of the universe, they forgot the most powerful unseen force. Love is light that enlightens those who give and receive it. Love is gravity because it makes some people feel attracted to others. Love is power because it multiplies the best we have and allows humanity not to be extinguished in the blind selfishness. Love unfolds and reveals. For love, we live and die. Love is God and God is love. This force explains everything and gives meaning to life. This is the variable that we've ignored for too long. Maybe because we are afraid of love, because it is the only energy in the universe that man has not learned to drive at will. To give visibility to love, I made a simple substitution in my most famous equation. If instead of E equals mc squared, we accept that the energy to heal the world can be attained through love multiplied by the speed of light squared, we arrive at the conclusion that love is the most powerful force there is because it has no limits. After the failure of humanity in the use and control of the other forces of the universe that have turned against us, it is urgent that we nourish ourselves with another kind of energy. If we want our species to survive, if we are to find meaning in life, if we want to save the world and every sentient being that inhabits it, love is the one and only answer. Perhaps we are not ready yet to make a bomb of love, a device powerful enough to destroy the hate, selfishness, and greed that devastates the planet. However, each individual carries within them a small but powerful generator of love whose energy is waiting to be released. When we learn to give and receive this universal energy, dear daughter, we will have affirmed, Lyocell, we will have affirmed that love conquers all, is able to trans everything and anything, because love is the quintessence of life. I deeply regret not having been able to express what is in my heart, which has quietly beaten for you all my life. Maybe it's too late to apologize, but as time is relative, I need to tell you that I love you, and thanks to you, I've reached the ultimate answer. Your father, Albert Einstein. I mean, that was very powerful for me to read, and when I first discovered it, it really showed this man in a different light, and I very much agree with him. the love of the self, the love of the co-creator. One of his most poignant quotes was that everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It could be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. So you ask yourself the question, what vibration do you resonate at? We've spoken before in this series, in this collective, related to our crystalline natures and how, as beings made up predominantly of water, our thoughts, emotions, and intentions have a direct impact on our bodies and minds. So start to align with what we have contemplated. How do you perceive yourself? How do you perceive love? How do you monologue to self? And then ask yourself, does it feel loved? Are you loving self in the way you may love others? And if no, ask yourself why. It is through the harmonizing and alignment with the energy of love within the self, which allows you to attune fully to the energy of receiving and giving love. So, looking for love, I guess why some people may have come to this seminar or this collective is in relation to other people. So let's take a look at that ubiquitous phrase, looking for love. What are you actually looking for specifically? If it is the love of another, what would you like that to look like? Visualize how you'd want to be loved and how you would give love. What would that look like on a daily basis and over a lifetime? And then ask yourself whether you can resonate with that vision that you created as a co-creator if you haven't attuned to the energy of love and the love of self. So you as reading these words are generators of love, co-creators of the universe. And if only you knew how loved you are and the immeasurable potential and capacity for love you have. Love thyself and let that energy magnetize you. Align with that energy and let it show you your path. Embody that energy and step into your life. And of course, in the following slides, we'll be looking at how we can co-create with other generators to do that.
Thank you so much, Mia. That was an excellent presentation. So this is a co-presentation, so I'm now going to take over the second half. I'm going to start it with a quote. We attract what we're a vibrational match to. So Mia's already covered this, but that is the physics. And I like what Albert Einstein put there as well. It's like combining love, God, physics, all under one thing, even though really, in my view, science only has a limited part to play in the spectrum of spirit, it's still relevant and appropriate. So really good, thank you. So first slide here, your point of attraction. We all carry stuck emotions within us that stem from some form of either abandonment, rejection, or abuse, trauma, whether that's in this lifetime or another lifetime, because it carries over. For as long as those emotions remain stuck within us, we will be a vibrational match to subconsciously creating situations in our romantic relationships, but not just our romantic relationships, where we continue to get abandoned, rejected, or abused. This is a really good, it's like one of those memes that got thrown out on social media a while ago, and it's just, it gets reproduced, as we all know. A first aid question: how aware are you of your traumas and suppressed emotions, and tell me about how you are actively working to heal them before you project that stuff onto me. So yeah, really good quote, and just a real sign of the times, especially over the past number of years. We've all been through quite a lot, haven't we? So the following slides present an example case of fear of abandonment manifesting later in life. So I'm just going to do a quick example because I love examples. I feel I learn the best personally through examples. So part 1 of 3, the childhood causality. So when I'm going to say you, as in like this happened to you, even though it didn't. When you were a child, you felt abandoned by your parents when they left you at summer camp on your own. And then what occurred within you in that moment? As a child in that moment, you did not have the tools or know-how to meet your own emotional needs without your parents. So to avoid feeling the painful emotion of separation in that moment of abandonment, your ego dissociated and fragmented a part of your emotional body. And this was part of a natural self-protection mechanism. the emotion lodged itself into one of your chakra centers or organs or every part of your body. And it's, yeah, so then in adulthood, it sticks with you during adulthood. And yeah, it's kind of shuts off, you know. It's like if that emotion is stuck, we have to go into it, like re-trigger it for us to feel it. Otherwise, it's just going to be stuck underneath our conscious awareness. We're not really going to be aware of it, like having an effect on us. So we subconsciously go about our life with a trapped subconscious fear of abandonment. And as such, the universe gives us the very thing we fear, which is abandonment, because we still have that stuck emotion in it. So the whole idea is we want to go back into that emotion. We can trigger it with our mind, with memory, get that emotion into our feeling body, feel it, bring love to it. And then we're not going to keep getting abandoned anymore or creating situations in our lives where we get abandoned, because the universe won't have anything left to reflect back to us other than what we want, because we won't be a vibrational match. So, and yeah, like even if you don't want something, if you're unknowingly in vibrational resonance with it, such as getting abandoned, you'll attract it. Man, it really is just basic physics. The mainstream physics hasn't really caught up with explaining this, I suppose. Just like Albert Einstein was ahead of his time. So now, how do we actually do this? How do we love ourselves into a better relationship? How do we work with our shadow, these stuck emotions that are keeping us repeating in a loop the same old nasty, sometimes toxic behaviors in relationship that we don't want? Because we don't want to be destroying our relationships. I know personally, I just want now like a long-term stable relationship. Like I don't want to repeat of the past 3 years. And I know it's the same for many here, whether it's romantic or not. We just want to be in a relationship that's a match to us, right? And how we feel about ourselves. So really it's simple in one sentence: bring love to those stuck emotions, love energy. So you don't project them onto your partner and destroy your relationship in the process. I've learned this one before firsthand. And yeah, that's wisdom. That's wisdom. We've all got some wisdom to share. So a couple of things here, like the main thing I want to point to here is we did a presentation for this Be the Change Collective meeting group. And this presentation was done, it was a few months ago now, but it was all about emotional healing and love energy cultivation. So I'd highly recommend this process. If you've got your phone available, you can scan that QR code and it will take you to that YouTube video of the presentation recording. And in that presentation is a process for cultivating love energy into yourself, which you can then use, as well as the childhood trauma integration exercise that's in there as well. You can go back into your childhood memories, bring love to those parts of yourself, and it's an instant change. So that's my most recommended thing to do. If you really want to love yourself into a better relationship, it's all about removing the emotional stuck blocks that you already have within you to free your vibration up, because your vibration is always high. It's just being held down low by the blocks that we karmically attach to ourselves. So another thing as well is you can do a Google search for how to heal your emotional body. Like, this isn't the only resource, that YouTube video, but yeah, I'll also leave a link in the chat here for anyone who's not going to be scanning that QR code and just wants the link. So I'm going to put that in the chat here somehow. Yeah. Now this other part, so really tying in with what Mia said, it's the same thing. It's really keeping it simple and not having to overcomplicate this. Like, find love within and you'll find it without. The quality of our external relationships is directly proportional to our internal relationship with ourselves. The more we love ourselves, the less love we seek from those who cannot always give it to us. The more we love ourselves, the more love we receive from others. It's a mirror universe, a holographic universe, a hall of mirrors. If we smile at someone, mostly we're going to get a smile back. If we're sad, people are going to be sad for us. If we expect our partner to always be there to fill up our own cup, we will be disappointed eventually, because it's not their responsibility to. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's not anyone else's responsibility to care for how you feel, but of course you'd expect your partner to also be caring at the same time, and naturally a partner would be. But we can't expect them to always be there for us to fill us up with love and care whenever we need it, because they just naturally won't be able to every time, even though they want to. Generally, it all comes from within us. So this is one kind of almost last ending point here, is see your partner as a brand new person every day. This is something that a friend of mine suggested to me a while back, and it's just like, that is gold right there. You know, when we've known someone for so long, or we've been in a long-term romantic relationship or something, you kind of, you know, the honeymoon phase goes, whether that's in a friendship or romantic, it doesn't, all the same thing pretty much. You kind of, there can be that jading. And what I found personally is, like, one of the best gifts we can give to others is to not see them through the preconceived lens of who we think they are, because we build up these belief systems, right, of who we think. For example, Phoenix, your friend there who you've had for many years, sorry to point you out, this is probably still being recorded actually, but lost where I was now, sorry. So, but yeah, we're all constantly changing. We are always becoming a new version of ourselves in every single moment. So it's like, for example, if I had a friend who was kind of trying to, not intending to pull me down, but was like saying, oh, you look really good and I feel really like unattractive, for example, then I would just, you know, there's a fine line, isn't there? It's like we love them, we care for them, and we don't want to just abandon them. Like they're our people, they're our tribe. But then there's only so much that our love levels in ourselves can tolerate of being, you know, because everyone's always going to have like a love energy tank, right? A fuel tank of love. Some people will feel really full of love one day, others might not so much. But in that kind of situation, if you've got people around you who are kind of chipping away at how much love you feel within yourself, then there's only so much we can put up with that. But at the same time, it can really shift the whole relationship itself. If we can just change our perception of our partner, we can unlock a whole new version in them too. By seeing them in a different light, we'll experience them in a different light, and they're reflected back to us, because it all comes back to the Hall of Mirrors. So as they will reflect back to us, yeah, they'll reflect back to you the shiny new untainted lens of which you choose to now see them through every new day. I just think that's something beautiful. And so, yeah, just in summary now, so Mia, on the left-hand side were your pointers, if you'd like to summarize, refresh everyone's minds of what they've just been through.
Yeah, so I guess it was a process of self-reflection more than anything. How you describe love, how you perceive yourself, what dialogue you have for yourself, and then the recognition that how you perceive yourself and communicate with yourself is just as important as how you communicate with other people. And, you know, the concept of love is different for everyone. If it's an energy, which I believe it is, in a way that Albert Einstein shared, then it's how do you vibrate? How do you resonate with that energy? Because it's really all up to you. You get to choose if you feel that or not. The choice is yours, effectively. It always has been. It's just that we need to remember that.
Wonderful, thank you. And then of course we attract what we're a vibrational match to, and went across the whole, like from childhood to adulthood, and how stuck emotions can keep us in the same patterns in relationships.